finding the commonality in terms of, how club and high school can exist together. So with that being said, is it necessary, would you got to start with club, is it something that you would recommend student athletes to do before they take that step into high school?
Yeah, what I always encourage, I try not to, gauge a player's background based on their club, but more importantly, I encourage them to find a setting that holds them to a high standard. Find a setting where you have a leader that not only just pushes you as a person, but pushes you, again, back to our original point, like to be a collective, student athlete and a good human being. And then find a program where, they have a culture and a standard that has evidence of kids going through the program of being good players. If the goal is collegiate soccer, they have a history of pushing kids to that direction. But I think it's about the relationships, it's about the environment. So it's down to coaching, right? It's finding somebody that can align with what you believe is going to make you a good person, and hopefully that's something that will again translate in them being good, not just on the field, but off the field. So yes, so I think if we're talking pure trying to be an elite athlete, you need to put in the time, you need to put in the reps, you need to put in the preparation. So the idea of getting into an environment outside of high school, I would say, is necessary.
For sure.
But it can be counterproductive at the same time. So I always, I tell them, it doesn't define you in that experience, but it can help you if you get the right setting.
So how so? In terms of it being counterproductive, how would you say that?
So here's a few examples. So, I always, I encourage players, just like anything, we separate the two environments from high school and club, and your role there and your role here might be the same when it's all said and done. But just like when you're in the real world, you have to be adaptable. There's going to be difference of opinions and different, game models and standards and expectations depending on the situation. But the best players are able to adapt in any environment and stick out. Nice. So I think that's what I encourage them to do. And it's not like we're trying to create that friction, but I always encourage even the players that I coach in clubs, say, hey, when you go into your high school environment, I want you to be the best.
Yeah.
And that means you respect your coach, respect the environment, but ask questions, be obviously inquisitive in what you're trying to do, but more importantly, set the example, set the standard. And guess what? It may not be something you like to do, but guess what? Sometimes we got to do things we don't enjoy, but it's also the moments like those that make us who we are, make us better. So I encourage people to, use that as a driving tool, but also be very aware of it that your club doesn't define who you are. And the players that can be successful at both are generally the ones that you see succeeding in life. And obviously seeing, signing letters of intent, playing collegiate, those kids, if you look them up, they're stars in their club setting, they're stars in their high school setting.